Hey guys, welcome back to the Called and Kept podcast. My name's Kate.
My name's Sailor.
We're back. Finally.
Yeah, so we definitely didn't intend for it to be this long.
No.
But there's a reason that we didn't say that we're going to have a podcast out on a specific date each month because whatever. Because life happens and...
life happens. Kate got sick for 2 weeks and then was gone on a trip to Vegas.
It's really all
Work
Kate's fault. It's not mine, actually. Yeah. Putting all the money in.
It's my fault. I'm gonna take it,
yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, was definitely a work trip in Vegas. I want to make that known. Kate doesn't go to Vegas. I'm more of like a cabin in the middle of nowhere kind of girl.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it just had me reflecting on actually what we're going to talk about today, just marriage and all that, because being in Vegas is quite the opposite.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's like the city that hates marriage.
Yeah.
Don't they call it Sin City?
Sin City.
Yeah, that's gross.
It was a super fun work trip, but, yeah. Vegas is not my place.
Okay, let's talk about, before we dive into our topic.
What are your
thoughts on our first podcast? Feedback?
Yes. Oh, my word. Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much. Like, I was not expecting the amount of love that we received. And, yeah, my heart was so full of joy. Yeah. And it was honestly just so, I was able to, like, go back and reflect myself, too, after. So, yeah, super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very grateful.
Yeah, no, it was definitely fun. And, like, a lot of learning curves.
Yeah.
And, you know, how to speak properly. I don't know. But I actually just, like, saw this girl today on some social media thing say, like the Lord doesn't plant dreams in your heart for no reason. Like, they're going to be,
love that.
like, look at, like, it's just the beginning of an amazing plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are. And I think when you do go after that dream, like, that's, you know, it's from God when, like, the devil is literally scraping at something, right? Should we talk about, we almost got canceled.
By Spotify.
Spotify.
They might cancel us again if I mention this.
But for saying it. But, yeah. I mean, everything's fine now. We're back up.
Yeah. They took us down. I couldn't even get into our account. And their reasoning was because of a security issue. Yeah. But we didn't get an email. It was so weird.
It was very, very weird.
It was definitely the devil.
We wouldn't have noticed if I didn't click that. I clicked the link on our website. I don't know why I was, but yeah. And I was like, Spotify's not working. Right. Yeah.
But don't worry, guys. It's back up.
It's back up.
It's back up.
We're still here. After one episode, we're still here.
You can't get rid of us yet. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, so first episode, super fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now on to several more.
Yeah, the next.
And our most asked about topic.
Yes, we thought we would do it second because it was the most asked about, which I think makes sense because both of us got married young, which is what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's so many moving parts. I'm sure there's going to be lots of conversations down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many details. I mean, even one little section, there's sub-branches, whatever you want to call it, of things to talk about and experiences and learning curves.
No, for sure. Yeah, when I was studying and praying about this episode, that is what I reflected on. I was like, this is going to be multiple episodes because there's just so many moving parts to getting married young and getting married in general. But, you know, getting married young, you just don't see it as often in our society. I mean, I think like the average age to get married is like what, late 20s, early 30s.
Kids are like mid 30s, or at least they were. I think slowly. I don't know. I see some people, like especially our like friend group, our city. A lot of people get married young, and then a lot of people wait for a while, and then they wait to have kids. So I mean, everyone has their own season, but I feel like it's definitely, like you said, not common to get married as young as we did. Yeah. I mean, we were both not even 21 when we got married.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I was 20. Logan was 21.
Yeah. My husband and I were both 20.
Well, 20.
Caleb turned 21 a week later.
Yeah.
So
crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I think it sounded more crazy getting engaged at 19.
Yeah, that's wild.
I was like, oh, I was still a teen then.
Yeah, you like barely out of high school.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's all from the Lord. And I think that's what we're going to dive into is kind of how do you tell that it's from the Lord and building that foundation. You know, we can say get married young, but in reality, like we want to make known that you have to have that foundation. And that's really what we're going to be diving into. So
yeah. I don't know if you're ready. The stigma.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge.
All right, Kate, I'd love for you to share a bit about your childhood and how you viewed marriage growing up and how that shaped your decision to marry Logan at the ripe age of 20.
Yeah, I love it. So fun. I think I have to think back to growing up. Marriage was something I look forward to. Like, my parents have been married for 27 years, and, you know, it's such a blessing to like have that example in my life, but it was an example that I really appreciated because it made something to like look forward to in life. And, you know, there's all girls in my household, and, you know, so we had Barbies and babies, and, you know, my dad would just, you know, sit back and watch all of his girls play with all the, you know, the girly things. But it was something that was just known that, you know, to look forward to in life. And, you know, I remember lining up all of my stuffed animals and American Girl dolls, Barbies for, you know, the bride Barbie to get married to Ken. And, you know, shortly after we're setting up a hospital to have a baby, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of environment I was raised in, and I'm super grateful for it because it helped shape, you know, why I chose to get married young. And it was more something that I just truly did look forward to. And then, you know, Logan and I, we met at a very young age, and so that also very much so shaped it. We just kind of became best friends, and, you know, I'm a runner, and so I think about it like when you're running a race, like you're not looking behind, you're looking forward and who's beside you in the process. And Logan, he was just, you know, always there for me. And so it was something that he pointed me towards, you know, my goals and towards Christ. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what mainly shaped it. And yeah, I'm super grateful for the environment I was raised in. It definitely influenced it for me.
Yeah. So, and others will learn kind of more about your long love story with Logan, but when, and maybe we'll be talking about this later, but when exactly did you know, like, oh, this was the person I was going to marry? Because you're with him for a long time. So, like, was it, you know, when you were out of high school? Was it in high school, you know?
Yeah. There's a couple moments I do remember thinking, he's my husband. Like, I'm pretty sure that he's my husband. And one of those was the first moment he asked to pray together. And, you know, prayer is a super like vulnerable, it can be a very vulnerable thing. And when he first asked, you know, I remember thinking in my head, if I'm being completely honest, like, oh, is this going to be a little awkward? Like, but the fact that he just was like wanting to come together and do that was huge. And I, you know, it just put me in the right headspace. Like, oh, like he's choosing to do this and leading us towards Christ. But it was funny because I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be awkward. But looking back on it, it's like something that really affirmed that he was the one for me.
I appreciate that so much because men often view prayer as being like embarrassing when you're doing it out loud. Same with like worship.
Yeah.
But like that is what the Lord calls us to do. Like it shouldn't be embarrassing.
Right.
And there's really good sermons out there about, like, why this is, like, the difference between men and women in this. Why is worshiping with their hands in the air and praying out loud more normal for a woman to do than for a man? You know, it has to do with your emotions and how women are emotional and men are not, or whatever. But props to Logan for doing that. Like, that requires boldness. Yeah. Especially with a girl you like. Like, could you imagine? Like, what if you were like, no, like, that's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we were so young at the time, too. And our relationship was founded on friendship. And I remember my mom talking to me about that. That's why she really did always like our relationship, you know, as a mother, because it was founded on friendship. And, you know, we were later found ourselves walking towards marriage together, which is, you know, the biggest blessing of my life. But, yeah, you know, that friendship, I feel like we were able to get a lot closer, faster, because it was built on that friendship first. So yeah, it's a little bit of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to agree with you. Growing up, like, family was the central of our life. Like, obviously aside from our relationship with Christ, but I mean, really they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like, family is the most important. That, like, in Genesis 2:24, talking about marriage, it says, therefore, shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And then also in Genesis, he says, be fruitful, multiply. Yeah. So, like, it really, like, this idea of family and a marriage is all centered around giving God the glory. Yeah. And growing up in the church and growing up with my parents who pushed us towards Christ, and that idea helped really shape my mind. Like, okay, this is what a family looks like. This is what a marriage looks like. Yep. So yeah, family, community, faith, all those things. That is what I grew up having my mind believe. And I remember one of my best friends and I mean, we wanted to be moms since we were tiny. I mean, we were bringing babies to church. We were walking around. I love that. We were walking around our neighborhood in the strollers. Like, we were moms. Whether you want to believe that plastic baby was real or not, we were moms, and we had imaginary husbands, you know?
Yeah, I love it. So cute.
Right? Yeah, so fun. And here we are now. I'm real life doing it.
Yeah.
But as I started to get older, you really have to understand, okay, marriage is not just a piece of paper. It's not just this, oh my gosh, be a wife and la la. Like, there is something sacred and holy about marriage. Yeah. And Christ talks about that. Talks about being, you know, the bride of the church, and how it's a commitment before God and each other, and it's about sacrifice and choosing to serve your spouse over yourself, being selfless, which is so hard. It's harder than you realize, because when you're dating, you still can't be that selfless that you are when you have to be in a marriage. Yeah. You recognize when you get married, oh, I'm actually really selfish. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And it's hard to be so selfless in this world, because it's a me world. Yeah. Yeah. So it's hard.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Marriage is the greatest lesson to
it
be.
Is. Yeah. So given that, this idea of marriage I had in my head, the one I grew up with and I learned and was taught to know how serious it really was, it was like, okay, this isn't just a dream anymore for me. Yeah. This is like a calling from the Lord. Which, you know, not everyone has that calling. Yeah. It's rare. Most people get married. But it was just like, this is something the Lord has put in my heart, and I can't wait to meet that person that I can serve and be selfish with. Because I'm going to be selfish, and he's going to love and forgive me, and we can learn to be selfless together.
Oh, I love that.
Which is hard. Yeah. I mean, Caleb, bless his heart, he is one of the most selfless people I know. Yeah. And I'm definitely not, you know?
Yeah. No, it's the same environment for Logan and I. Yeah. Yeah, he's actually just on my Valentine's Day post, it had me, it's funny how, you know, those holidays make you reflect on that. And I posted, about that. Like, I'm so thankful for the man that Logan is, because he is so selfless, and that helps me become that way too. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like the beautiful thing in marriage is like, you know, you're helping one another with, you know, where the areas that you do have holes in. Like, yeah.
And, you know, my love story in a way is very different from what yours and Logan was. And I really learned, I had a lot of, what do you want to call it? Teaching lessons. Yeah. Until I met Caleb. And even then I was still learning and trying to figure out what does a godly relationship look like. And like you said, when a man comes and asks to pray for you and prays with you and speaks to the Lord over you and pushes you, like actually pushes you, I feel like I've heard couples say like, oh yeah, like he pushes me towards the Lord. Yeah. But it's like, is he actually like opening a Bible and reading it with you? Is he actually sitting you down and praying with you? And until I found that person, until I found Caleb, that's when I knew, oh, okay, this is what a marriage is supposed to look like. This is what I need to be seeing in someone in order to be like, oh yeah, that I'm ready to marry that person.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And I think like part of it is also, you know, that person that's going to call you out, call you out when you are living wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So good. Another thing that how I knew Logan was the one for me, I had the privilege of actually watching him get baptized. And in that moment, you know, it really made me reflect on our relationship is not just the two of us. It's founded on God, and God is in our relationship. It put it into perspective. Like when you're watching that, it's just like, whoa, like it's so much bigger than just the two of us. And so I think that was another area that I just knew Logan was the one, and I knew that he was going to lead us towards Christ, and that we were going to grow in Christ together and separately. And so, yeah, when the time came, you know, choosing to marry him, a lot of people, I think, were not shocked with how long we were together. But I did have people ask me, like, are you sure, you know, you're young? And I said, I really don't have all the answers, and I know we're young, but I know that God is chasing after the both of us, and that we're chasing after him, and that ultimately, individually, we both love him more. Yep. I think that's the big game changer.
It's a big game changer. And not feeling like you have to force your partner into leading you or into reading their Bible. I'm not saying to be like, hey, like I haven't seen you use your Bible very much lately. Like, let's work on that. Let's do that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you are newly dating, that is not your job. Yeah. Like you're not there to babysit him into becoming a Christian. Mm-hmm. You're there to grow together. Yeah. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect. But having that, you know, the Bible talks about being equally yoked. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that translates even into your faith, how strong your faith is. Yeah. Because if one of you is really strong, one of you is not, there's going to be some issues that need to be worked out before you're ready for marriage.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I remember when Caleb and I first started talking, I was just so tired of the talking stage, and I'm sure many girls can relate to that because it's not fun. Like, seriously, I don't want to know what your favorite color is ever. But when Caleb and I, our first few dates, every night I would drive home, I would pray, and I'd be like, Lord, if this is not the person for me, just take him out of my life. Like, I'm completely content where I am in this season, and I don't want to be wasting my time or anything that's going to take my mind away from the Lord. Yeah. And I knew that it was the Lord's plan when my mind never went away from the Lord when I was with Caleb.
Yeah.
It was always bringing me back, and the Lord always brought me and him together. Mm-hmm. So having that and being like, okay, yeah, God, like, this is clearly for you. Because, like you said, I loved God more than I loved Caleb. Yeah. And I choose God first because he's forever, he's perfect, he's eternal. Yeah. Yeah. Just help guide that.
Yeah, and that's a topic I want to touch on a little bit later. I think we have. I'm trying not to get ahead here. Yeah. But it's so easy to get caught up in marriage. I want marriage. And I was actually in this, like, and the minute I kind of flipped it, and I've been recently thinking a lot about this, that marriage is temporary. Mm. And even though it's like sometimes like, oh, like, how am I going to view my spouse in heaven? You can be sad, but oh my gosh, we're not going to care. Like, no. It is so temporary. And I think that's when you truly are willing to serve your spouse, is when you kind of do think about it like that. Mm-hmm. This is so temporary, and heaven is eternal. Mm-hmm. And whether we like it or not, there's a heaven and a hell. Mm-hmm. And so I think serving, I don't know, that just like really sticks with me and is a big factor into, wanting to serve Logan the best I can now, because this is so temporary. And, it's just so much bigger than marriage.
Yeah. Your marriage is, like you said, bigger than you and Logan, me and Caleb. It's a testimony to those around you. It's giving God glory. Mm-hmm. It's not just about you.
Yeah. I love it.
Amen.
Okay, so let's be real. There's definitely a stigma around getting married young. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, getting married young. So Caleb and I were 20 when we got married. We turned 21 just a few weeks after. Which, honestly, like, those closest to us, they knew, like, Caleb's and I personalities were both, like, when we found the right person. Yeah. The one, like, we knew it's going to be, like, oh, they're going to get married. And we both, that was our goal. Like, not our goal, but, like, our calling was to get married and start a family. So it wasn't really surprising to those around us. Yeah. I think, honestly, what the most surprising part was I'm sure for some closest to us, but also maybe just for those who didn't know us very well, or even just some friends, was the timing. So Caleb and I got engaged in under 4 months, which for some people that was like, oh my gosh, they're like crazy. Which, like, I never thought
you just don't see it as often.
No. Yeah. No. And then we got married 8 months later, which I feel like that's, like, not crazy, but when you've only... I mean, our 1 year anniversary of being together was, like, a few weeks after we got married. Yeah. So it's been crazy. And now that we have a baby on the way, like, it's all just very fast happening. So yeah. I can understand that people are like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening? Yeah. So for me, I didn't really think about what people's opinions were. One, because that's kind of my personality. Two, we just felt like the peace of God at this time. Like, we knew this is what the Lord was calling us to do. We had been in for prayer about it. Yeah. We had our families praying over us and supporting us each step along the way. So it was just like, oh my gosh, like, this, like, it was so joyful and so, like, I wasn't worried about, oh my gosh, like, what are they thinking? Like, are they, like, right in thinking that we're crazy?
Well, it was founded on Christ, and I think you just can't really ignore marriage when it's like that, right?
No. Well, and for us, it's like, what's the point? Yeah. I mean, we were like, what's the point of waiting? Like, just dating for so long. Like, we want to get married and start a family, so let's get it going. But I do know that the stigma, whether it's age or the timing of getting married, like, the questions like, oh, but you'll never be able to date again, or don't you want to travel, like, experience your 20s? Yeah. I didn't ever want to date again, period. I know, like, for girls who are in that process, like, the talking stage and getting to know someone is awful. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't ever want to know your favorite color ever again. Like, please, no more. Like, you know, so I think that's valid. Like, but for me and for women who have that calling of, I just want to get married, or, you know, I'm not here to date around. That's, you know, that statement of don't you want to date around doesn't matter. So, but I understand that for some women that can be a stigma for them. And then, like, the ones about traveling, experience your 20s. And, you know, if you have career goals, my only career I wanted to do was be a mom. So, like, I went to college, but I did it as fast as I could. I don't even use my degree now. Yeah. Don't tell my mom and dad. So, you know, that also it didn't affect me. But, again, I understand for some women, like, it does. My mindset was for, like, the whole traveling experience, 20s, I want to do it with my best friend. And, like, you grew up with Logan. Yeah. And so you're like, oh, I already know how this is. This is amazing. Why would I want to do it by myself? Right.
Exactly. No, 100%. That was literally my thought process. You know, I think more so, you know, my actually entire relationship, people were like, oh, he's the only person you've ever been with. And it's like, yeah, rightfully so. But, like, you know, if you knew our foundation and if you knew, like, we were just truly best friends, like, we want to do everything together. Right. So it was like, oh, none of these questions are really, like, you know. Exactly. A lot of people saw Logan and I coming, but. Yeah. Yeah.
We're actually wondering why he waited so long to pop the question. But yeah. That's for another time. So, yeah, I know in age, like, oh, but you have so much to learn and you're not ready. Schmobo. Like, no one's ready for anything ever. Yeah. Let's be so for real. Yeah. Things come up all the time. Yeah. I love 1 Timothy 4, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard it. It's Paul instructing Timothy, and he says in verse 12, let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, and purity. So I don't want to twist it. Like, this verse is about Timothy's calling to preach, and Paul is saying people could look down on you because of your age, and that translates to Christians, both in your life choices, your ministry, and your marriage. That you could feel the pressure of your age, like that stigma of marriage. Like, like, I don't think you're ready. Well, first of all, that's not for you to decide. But anyways, Paul tells Timothy that even though he's young, he's still called to follow Jesus wholeheartly and be a living example for others. Yeah. And I think that applies to, you know, if God is calling you to get married young, you follow that calling and you do it with your whole heart, being bold. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying following God, you're not pleasing man. That's not what we're here for. We're here to follow God and please God.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, you know, a lot of the questions, you know, like, oh, you're so young, like, don't you want to be financially secure first? You know, are you for sure that's the person you want to spend forever with? And it's like, those are valid concerns, but they're rooted in a worldly mindset. Yep. So, like, what are we looking at here? Are we going to look at the world for advice, or are we going to look to our Heavenly Father? And so I think once you kind of flip that mindset, that's when it really all changes. Right. So,
well, realizing that you're never going to find a perfect person because no one's perfect. No. And before anyone says, oh, well, you know, I don't know.
They're perfect.
They're perfect. Or, you know, well, what about the women who struggle with, you know, being in bad relationship? Okay. Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm talking about two Christian people rooted in the Lord. Yeah. Your relationship and your timeline is not defined by the world. It is God.
Yeah. Marriage is not a personal achievement. Right. You know, it's not. Right. Yeah, it's a covenant.
Right. And like you said, like there's no, oh, I get a gold star for getting married young or getting married in general. Yeah. It's, I'm getting married because I want our relationship to be a testimony to those around us.
Yeah.
And I want our marriage to glorify the Lord.
Serving wholeheartedly. Yeah.
And then I want to create children that then do the same. Right?
Yeah.
It's not about
fruitful.
you.
Yeah. You know, in reality, it's about faithfulness to God's design, and his timing, and ultimately to glorify him. Once we remove ourselves from it, then it's just like marriage fits into the picture, you know, because we want to serve and glorify God. So, yeah, breaking the stigma a little bit.
It's not an easy one.
Yeah, no.
And, you know, if you don't have family that supports it either, and we are both blessed to have that.
Right.
By not having that, that has to be hard.
Yeah. No, it definitely does.
And I get the advice and listen to the wisdom from your parents, even if they don't support it. Pray to the Lord, get just wise counsel.
Yeah.
And just, you have to walk in boldness. I mean, that's at the end of the day, walk in boldness and follow what the Lord's calling you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, because the question is really not like, am I ready? It's more like, is God calling me to this?
Right.
So.
Because we're never ready for anything. Ever.
Right. Yeah.
Never. Okay, Kate. So, the big question, the big one here.
The big question.
How to know if you're ready for marriage. And again, like, you're never fully ready.
Yeah. But
individually, whether you're single, dating, how do you know that you are ready to be a wife?
Yeah. Well, first I want to start off by saying I do not have an answer for you. I believe that only comes from God. But I have narrowed it down to 5 points just from my experience. So here's what I would say. 1, you're not looking for somebody to complete you. Only Jesus can do that. The minute you flipped your mindset from, oh, he completes me. I mean, like, our world just like preaches this stuff all day. And so I think you have to switch your mind from, looking for somebody to complete you, because like you were talking about earlier, nobody is perfect.
Right.
And so, yeah, just flipping that mindset, because
it's
only
like
God can do that.
It's literally like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Right. You have all these puzzle pieces and you're putting them together.
Yeah.
Putting a broken puzzle piece into the puzzle, it's not going to complete the puzzle.
Yeah.
So why do we expect the same with someone else?
It's good.
Because we're all broken people. So why are we expecting them to fill and complete us?
Yeah.
But if God's that perfect piece and we put that piece in that puzzle.
Yeah.
Perfect. Complete.
Game changer. Yeah. Number 2, you understand that love is a choice and not just a feeling. Number 3, you're both pursuing God first before pursuing each other. I think that's like going back to when I was talking about when Logan asked to come to pray together, and when he got baptized, like realizing that, you have to focus on your relationship with the Lord first, and then you come together and then make that stronger. And then number 4, you're willing to embrace the sacrifices and responsibilities that marriage requires. Cause like we were talking about earlier, marriage is sacrifice. Yeah. And then number 5, you're surrounding your relationship with a godly community. God calls us to be in community and, be fellowshipping with one another. And so I think, and it's huge, people, just, what is the word I'm looking for? Influence marriages. And so you want to be sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that are going to better your marriage, and not harm it. And here's the thing, although the Bible doesn't say you must be this old to get married, it does talk a lot about spiritual readiness. I look to Matthew 22:29 through 30. It reminds us that marriage is a temporary gift, and it's not eternal. Our ultimate relationship is with God. And so I think once you flip your mindset to thinking that your marriage is not, and it can be like, our human side is like, oh, that's really sad.
Yeah.
But it ultimately makes you want to serve your partner that much more better, when you do realize like this is so temporary, you know? And I think whether you're married or in a relationship or single, you know, that's a reminder just about the world in general. The world is so temporary. And so we got to have our eyes on what's not.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so I think looking at Matthew 22, sorry, I kind of sidetracked there. Jesus was asked about a hypothetical widow who continues to remarry. And the religious leaders of that time were asking Jesus which husband this woman would be married to in heaven, as they all had her at one point. And Jesus answered them and said, "You are wrong, because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven." So when we switch our thinking that marriage is not eternal and we focus on what is, then marriage fits right into the picture, at least with my, you know, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, and you think about heaven, like, it's all about glorifying God in heaven.
Yeah.
Which is, like, why, like, I don't know, like, on earth, obviously, it's, like, yes, we want to glorify God, serve others, and, but there's nothing other than serving God in heaven. Mm-hmm. So, like, almost, I don't know, having a marriage. Yeah. It doesn't. You're both just serving God. Everyone's there just serving God.
Yeah. Yeah. I love talking about that because it just makes myself reflect on like this world, you know, it's temporary and, you know, it's a gift from God and yeah.
Yeah. How to know if you're ready for marriage.
Yeah. Dive into it.
Man, I could dive into it. So, again, like I've mentioned, I've had this deep desire and calling to be a wife and a mom, but, you know, and I would say, like, yeah, I'm dating to married, but looking back, I really didn't always date in a way that reflected that. I wasn't really dating with the intention of finding a God-centered relationship or pursuing marriage. Right. I was just searching for someone who had potential, or like, oh, well, this is someone. Yeah. Like, if I find someone to date, I'm a step closer, right? Yeah. But I mean, that's not really how that works. And there was a season where I was almost desperate, not for a particular guy, but just because I had this overwhelming desire to fulfill this calling that the Lord had for me. And craving it so badly that I would date anyone that seemed close to ideal. Right. Or even if they just said, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. Well, you know, just because you say you're a Christian, like, there's so much more to being what am I trying to say? A godly leader in man than just I'm saying you're a Christian, if that makes sense. Yeah. So this mindset of, like, desperate dating, it obviously wasn't healthy. Yeah. And it wasn't until I was completely, wholeheartedly content in my season of singleness that the Lord poured into me, like, this is what it looks like to have a godly relationship and to further you towards this dream of becoming a wife and a mom. Yeah. So prioritizing the Lord in this season of singleness allowed me to get rid of that desperate dating habit, which I'm sure my parents were thankful for.
Yeah. Not worshiping the idea of marriage and worshiping God. Yeah.
So once I let go of that desperation and trusted God, like, you know what? It really is going to be in his plan. And why waste my time with other people, with all this worrying and thinking when it's all going to be perfect in God's plan? And in the meantime, I can just glorify him and just take it day by day. So when I met Caleb, I knew he was the one. And people were like, oh, how'd you know? And people always ask, when did you know? And I'm like, oh, our first date. Like, I knew the first time I hung out with him, oh, this was from the Lord. And they asked me why. And I say, because one of the first things Caleb asked me was about my heart for the Lord. Because why does he want to waste his time either with someone who doesn't truly have a heart for the Lord?
Right.
And, you know, that's really important for ladies who are searching for someone in singleness, or if they're dating, that your boyfriend, your whatever person, whatever, that is what they care more about.
Yeah.
Is your heart for the Lord, not for your looks.
Yeah.
Right? Not for, because looks age, right? We talked about that. So.
Yeah. Were you like taken back in that moment?
I was like, what do I even say? Like, maybe, like, am I going to mess this up? But like, I was so like in awe of just the boldness that is required to ask that question to someone, because that shows your character.
Yeah.
You know, that shows who you are and what you care about.
It's huge.
Especially on a first date. I mean, and we were in a car, like, I couldn't go anywhere. You know, he couldn't go anywhere. We were just in a car. So, but so going forward, a few weeks later, I had mentioned that, you know, every night I would drive home we would hang out, and I would drive home from his house, and I would pray to the Lord, like, hey, like, Lord, like, if this is not the person, you know, close the door. Yeah. And I had just that peace and clarity. And then a few weeks later, Caleb and I, we were watching the sunset, very romantic, so cute, right? And he turns to me and he goes, I know this is really early, but like, do you see us getting married? And I was like, yeah. Like, I barely let him finish the sentence. I was like, yep. Like, yep, I just knew. And like, I was like, this wasn't coming from like I gotta lock him in. Like, this was coming from like like, yeah, like, you're the person for me.
The peace of the Lord.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is the feeling you will get when you are walking with the Lord individually, like, already. You have that foundation, which we've talked about from the beginning. Yeah. And it turns out, and I didn't even know this until probably a few months ago, I was telling Caleb about how every time we would hang out when we were dating, I'd pray on my way home. And he's like, yeah, I did the same thing. It's like, every time that you would leave, I'd pray. And I'm like, that is just the power of having that strong foundation individually and then coming together. Yeah. Right? So long story short, there were a few things, and some of them kind of overlap with yours, about how I kind of knew I personally was ready for marriage. And this I learned before Caleb, during Caleb, even after Caleb. Yeah. The idea of that I love you, Caleb, but I love the Lord more. And it's the idea of like, I don't need you. Yeah. But I'm going to choose you in this marriage. Yeah. But I love God more. Yeah. And God comes first.
He's the one that completes me.
Exactly. Yeah. And like same, going off of that, like I'm not looking for Caleb to completely. I'm looking for him to compliment me because we're a marriage. Yeah. And coming together, we're growing and serving and honoring one another. Yeah. So, and then my third one, a little out of order here, so that's why. And I actually read this on Focus on the Family. And they stated that serving is one thing, but sacrifice is more. And I just want to read it because I don't want to mess it up, but it was really interesting. I had never heard it before. Because in marriage, you talk a lot about serving, but you also talk about sacrifice. Yeah. So it's like, okay, what is this difference we're talking about here? So it says, it's easy to serve. Serving is about helping out, performing duties, and being there for each other. But sacrifice costs you something. It's about giving up your time, your comfort, your desires, and it's about laying down your wants because you see your spouse as more valuable than your own comfort. Which I'm like, good. Wow, that is so powerful. Yeah. Like, we talk about, like, the acronym for joy, Jesus, others, you. It's like, serve the Lord, glorify the Lord, and then others, that's your spouse. Like, that is the person that is next. And it's like giving up and sacrificing is hard, and doing it with a joyful heart is hard. Kind of like in Luke 9:23 about taking up our cross, like, to the Lord.
Yeah.
And to the world. It so applies in marriage.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, it's even the smallest things. Like, I want to make something for dinner that I'm craving. But it's like, oh, but my husband he hasn't had steak in forever. You know what I mean? It's like those little things.
Yeah.
They add up, and that's sacrifice. Yeah. You know?
Or even making dinner some nights.
Seriously.
Like, can you go pick it up? No, yeah, okay.
Can we just get pizza and take out? Yeah. So anyways, those 3 things are just some things that help me recognize that, like, okay, like, when the time is right, I'm ready for marriage. And when I was with Caleb, it's like, okay, I'm for sure ready for marriage.
Yeah, I think the overarching theme of this is having a foundation, you know, and separately before, you know, and Logan and I, we were together for, you know, a very, very long time. And so we were kind of building upon our relationship with the Lord, even being together. But we were still building those out separately. And then you can come together. I mean, like, seriously, like, you can change the world. When you have 2 people come together that are just solid in the Lord, I mean, imagine what you can do for the kingdom. Yep. So.
And I think that gets overlooked and almost like, people like see it as being like cheesy.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you experience the power and the blessings in that, you're like, oh my gosh, like, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's about foundation. Getting married young isn't for everybody. Right. It's not about rushing into something because of your age or, you know, it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s or your 30s. It's all God's plan. It's all his timing. Yeah. It's about continuing to walk close with him and have that strong foundation. If you don't have that, then you're making it about your plan. Yeah. You know, it's about me, what I want, you know. That's when it's gonna be hard.
Yeah. Because, I mean, having somebody to walk alongside you in life, like, it is so desirable. And I think when you're not looking at, you know, foundational pieces and making sure it's built, you know, on a rock and not sand, we got to look at that first before you ever, you know, add to the picture, I guess, through marriage. But yeah.
Well, man, I think we talked on a lot today.
We talked a lot.
Kind of a little bit everywhere. But like I said, there's so many moving pieces in not just getting married young, but getting married in general.
Yeah. It's definitely a topic we will probably be talking about a lot and more in some next episodes because, I mean, literally, guys, we could talk forever.
Clearly. I mean, I can feel a little scratch in my throat. Yeah. But I drink some water and I'm good to go.
I know.
Yeah. Any new things? Probably a new blog post will be coming up with a recap of this podcast.
Yeah, make sure to get on our email list if you want notified about those. We got some fun things coming up planned. We're just seeing where the Lord takes this and having fun while doing it.
Yeah, and let us know any new topics that you want us to touch on. Yeah. We really actually read those and take those into consideration. They help guide us over our next topics.
Yeah, for sure. Let us know.
We promise to be a little quicker at our next podcast. Have one posted a little faster.
Yes. Definitely that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will close in a word of prayer then.
Yes, please.
All right. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day, and I thank you that we are just brought together to talk about the hard things in life and talk about what getting married looks like young, our experiences, how to know if you're ready, and just the importance of having that strong foundation with you and walking with you closely in all of our life, whether that be in marriage, in any decisions you're making in your friendships, relationships. It really just applies to all, Lord. So I pray that you continue to walk with us and you continue to keep us in your calling for us, and that you just give us peace and joy in whatever season we're in, whether it's a season of singleness, of dating, engagement, marriage, children, that we just continue to walk with you and find peace in you. Lord, I thank you just for what you're doing here at the Called and Kept podcast, and through me and Kay. I pray that you continue to put all pride away and just let all this glory go to you, God. Thank you again. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'll chat with you guys later.
See you later.